Welcome back to yet another session at Lallan's IAS. I'm Hiranyamathap Saikya, Director Academics, and at the beginning of the session, I would like to make an appeal to you and state some facts. So we have formally launched the institution yesterday, that is 17th of August, in Guwahati Press Club. And soon our leaflets and brochures will be in the public domain, and we have courses particularly suited for working professionals, graduates, as well as college students. So whoever is interested can contact us in the contact number that is provided. So that being said, beginning today's session, which is going to be a three-part series. Actually, we will talk about a very sensitive issue that covers or that is affecting Assam, and that is very much in news. But certain other aspects, which although are not very much in news, but is very relevant for the existing context. So here, before we go to the topic of the day, I would like to highlight some things. Like, of course, the topic that we will discuss today is going to be delimitation, which I am sure most of you are familiar. But along with it, two more topics. The topic of Assam Accord. As well as the topic of NRC, National Register for Citizens. These are very much relevant, and actually not this year, but last year in APSC mains there was a question regarding the definition of Assamese, or the definition of Assam related to it. So there is a question of identity associated with it. There is a question of challenge to the indigenous people of Assam. There are certain reports which suggest that there is a demographic assault on the indigenous people of Assam. So in the context, all these three topics become very relevant, and that's why you need to have objective idea on these facts, on these issues, so that you feel confident on that interview table. So today we will start with delimitation. So I have already populated the field so that it saves our time. You can either write it down or take a screenshot of it, whichever is familiar to you, and or whichever way you are comfortable. So we will be dealing it in a manner that it covers all aspects. You won't have any doubts regarding this topic. So here, first of all, we will be dealing with the news, the current news that has happened. That means the finalization of the delimitation order by the Election Commission of India. Then what are the constitutional provisions related to delimitation? Then what is the logic behind delimitation? Then there is something called the Delimitation Commission. So what is it? What is its composition and powers? Then the procedure. What procedure does it follow? Then what is the historical background of this delimitation? How many times has it happened? Or what are the precedents? Okay, and you might be aware that after 1971 census, there has been a freeze on it. So why the freeze was there, and what led to it, or like you can say an extension to this idea is the challenge of delimitation, so at all India level. So that challenge led to the freeze. So we will analyze on those aspects, and then we will deal with the concerns with the exercise has on, like certain concerns has been raised on the exercise that has been conducted in Assam. So that will be there, and then lastly the way forward. What is the way to how can we look forward to it? Okay, so having said that, let us start with the news. So what is the news? I'm very much sure that you should be aware that the Election Commission has published the final report on August 11th. Okay, so when we say delimitation, obviously here we will have to take the help of the Constitution of India. The Constitution of India defines the idea of delimitation under Article 82 and Article 170. Why two articles? Because this leads to delimitation for the Parliament. This leads to delimitation for the state legislative assemblies. So what does it say? The language that is used in the Constitution of India is not delimitation, but what is it used? It says that it is readjustment of seats or constituencies. Obviously, after every decennial census, Constitution ordains on the government that after every census, you should compose a delimitation commission. Now, before that, the Parliament has to pass an act on delimitation Act, and then delimitation act will create a delimitation commission, and that delimitation commission will readjust the seats of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, as well as the state legislative assemblies. So this is the idea that is there in the Constitution of India, which clearly says that after every census, there should be a delimitation that should be done. Okay, that is a constitutional obligation of the government. So, having understood what is there in the Constitution, now we should look at what actually do we do when we do delimitation. What we actually do. Number one, there can be increase or decrease of seats. Then there can be an extension to this only, redrawal of boundaries. Then there can be renaming of constituencies, and then there can be reallocation of reserved seats. We have reserved seats for SCs and STs. So these are basically four things that are done in delimitation exercises. And what we saw in Assam, did we see this? No, we didn't see this. We saw this, and we saw this, and we saw this. I hope it is clear. You won't have any doubt regarding the aspects that we deal with delimitation and what happened in Assam. Okay, here certain factual details, like if you are coming from any parliamentary or assembly constituency whose name has been changed. Suppose you are from Koliabor area and Koliabor Lok Sabha constituency has been renamed as Kaziranga. So such details. Then again, Moran has been Moran assembly constituency name has been changed. Rotabari, to name a few that is on the top of my head. So all those things you need to look into it. Like if you belong to that part, or if you are from that region, just be aware of this factual details. What are the name changes that has happened? Okay, but other than that, total number of seats still it remains the same in Assam. Earlier it used to be 126 for assembly. That is retained. 14 for the Lok Sabha, that is retained, and Rajya Sabha also it is retained. 7 seats. So we saw changes in boundaries. There were changes in boundaries that resulted into, the old constituency became a little bit more expanded or shrink a little. Somewhere constituencies were lost. No, there was a huge hue and cry in Amguri when Amguri lost or Amguri was merged with other constituency. So such events are happening, but overall the total number of seats has not changed, but there is redrawal of the boundaries. Okay, so these are the bare minimum facts that you need to know. Okay, so keep in mind that many constituencies have ceased to exist as it is now. So many MPs and many MLAs, maybe mostly MLAs, they will lose their seats, or they won't have. They will have to fight from different constituency because their old constituency no longer exists. Okay. So we have dealt with this. Then logic. What is the logic? Logic behind delimitation is one vote, one value. We are a functioning political democracy, at least. So what does it mean? Political equality is there. So if a constituency has, say, 100 electors or 100 voters, and one person is representing those 100 people. I mean, it's a hypothetical example. So suppose that 100 increases to 1000. So you can say, if the same person is representing 1000 and in another segment of population only one person is representing 500, then you cannot say that one vote, one value is exercised. Okay, so to ensure this principle to the best way possible, obviously there has to be differences. There will be challenges, like challenges of geography, challenges of culture, societal challenges, like in tribal societies you will find that population is very segregated, scattered. So that way it will be very difficult to make a geographical as well as population based territorial constituency. So those challenges notwithstanding, we have to abide by this principle of one vote, one value. So the logic behind delimitation is one vote, one value. So it essentially means that after every census, keeping in mind that population obviously changes, it can be up. Generally it has gone up, but right now the trend is good. We have actually reached the our TFR is at replacement level right now. It's close to 2.1. So we are doing well. Earlier, all those doomsday prediction of India actually becoming like a case of population explosion is actually overrated, you can say. Although we are now the most populous country in the world, but the trend is going down. There was a study by IMF which suggested that we should peak by around 2060, and by the end of this century, our population will actually be quite less than what it is now. So because as a whole the numbers are going down, TFR rates are going down, so eventually population will stabilize soon and it will come down. So to represent or to adjust for those changes, we need to do delimitation. So this should be your foundational statement when you are asked why delimitation. You have to say to adhere to the principle of one vote, one value, we do delimitation. Okay. Then comes the certain procedural aspects and how it is done. Okay, so as I referred to earlier, Parliament passes the Delimitation Act, and that results into formation of the Delimitation Commission. Delimitation Commission. So how is it, what is the composition of this Delimitation Commission? The composition is a former Supreme Court judge, then the Chief Election Commissioner, then concerned state election commissioners. Be mindful of the fact that state election commissioners have no role to play in the general election. I mean, the elections to assemblies, election to parliament, they have no role. Actually, state election commission was brought in by which act? It was brought in by 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act when the Panchayat came into force. So that created State Election Commission mainly to conduct elections to the Panchayat. But obviously when you do delimitation, Panchayat areas will also be affected. So that way, to address those concerns or like to accommodate those interests, you have included the State Election Commissioner also in the scheme of things. So this is the composition of the Delimitation Commission. Supposedly this should be there. Now, my question to you, you can reply in the comments. Was the Delimitation Commission constituted for doing the delimitation exercise in Assam that was just now formed? You can comment below. Obviously, I will come to that later in the video, but you can do it now. Okay. Then comes the powers. What are the powers that it enjoys? Obviously, the Delimitation Commission, since CEC is part, so it means that it will work in collaboration with Election Commission of India. It has to be an exercise of both the Delimitation Commission and Election Commission of India. And it enjoys the power of you can say a civil court. It can call anybody for any evidence or to gather any data. It can call people or call any official. Okay, so that way it enjoys the power of a civil court. And secondly, most importantly, the report that it gives finally, that is called an award. That award is final and binding. What does it mean? It means that there is no legal remedy possible after the award is given. It doesn't go to, you cannot appeal to a court citing grievance on the award. So this is the, you can say, to protect the sanctity of the democratic process, or to protect the sanctity of the principle of separation of power in a state, you can say, like, because this is a executive decision, you want to segregate judiciary from this part, so it should be the domain of the executive, and actually legislature also takes part, because creation of Delimitation Commission is done by legislature. So in a way, you are making it powerful. So that is the whole idea of Delimitation Commission. So Union government sets it up after the passing of the act. Actually, the president appoints the commission after the act is passed. Here it will be we have dealt with the procedure aspect, so we can look into the background of the things. Procedure I have covered. So what is the background of this act, or you can say the delimitation exercise? So the first delimitation that happened in India was in the year 1950-51. Like first delimitation was done, or first you can say president set up a delimitation commission. Actually no, the first delimitation exercise was done like prior to the first general election. First general election happened in 1951-52. So before that it was done, and be mindful the president. First delimitation exercise done by the president with advice of Election Commission of India. So it means that no act was passed in Parliament regarding delimitation and no commission was formed. So first commission that was formed was in 1952. 1952 the act was passed, DM Act, delimitation, sorry. First delimitation act was passed. Okay. Then Delimitation Commission was formed in 52. Then later it was set up in 1963 after the 61 census. Then 1973. Then later in 2002. Okay, these acts were passed. So there was a gap here. Means 1981 and 1991 there were no acts passed. Okay, so why, that we will discuss. So this is the background of the issue. You should, if you are asked in an interview how many times it has been formed, the answer is 4 times: 52, 62, 73 and 2002. So what is the issue regarding delimitation? Now on the one hand we say one vote, one value, but on the other hand there is a government policy of what? Checking TFR, total fertility rate. We want to check the total fertility rate. We want to bring it close to the replacement level, that is 2.1. What is TFR? TFR means how many child a woman of childbearing age will bear in her lifetime. If it is 2.1, it is said that actually the couple can be replaced by their children. So that way it creates a stable population. So this is the ideal. So we wanted TFR to be 2.1. But delimitation actually is beneficial for whom? It is beneficial for those states where TFR is higher. In a way, you are encouraging states to keep producing more children so that they get more political representation. It creates a skewed ratio where you want one policy to be, you can say, to stabilize the population. On the other hand, you are encouraging population growth through, you can say, through encouraging more political empowerment. Okay, more political representation only possible through more population. So that way you are creating a dichotomy for the people. So that was realized in the 1970s, and this skewed nature of distribution of electoral seats or parliamentary seats is very much evident in India, where we see a state like UP. How many seats does it have right now? 80 Lok Sabha seats. State like Bihar, 40, just because of their population. Whereas states in South India who have done really well in controlling their population, or controlling their population growth, they have actually lost political power because of this. Okay, so there was a huge demand or huge, you can say, grievance from the South that we should freeze the delimitation exercise because you are essentially discouraging us from taking up a progressive policy. Okay, so to address this concern, there was what? There was the freeze. The freeze happened in 1973. 1973, it was said that we will no longer increase the total number of seats in Lok Sabha and the state assemblies in order to address the challenge of population growth. Okay, so and to not, you can say, disadvantage the states who are encouraging or who are going for stabilizing population in their states. So that's why there was a freeze in delimitation in 1973. So from then till now, we are using what that data, the data of 1971 census, data was used for the later reallocation of seats, and one thing was said that there will be no increase. The first point that I said regarding delimitation, the increase or decrease in seats, they say no increase in total seats. There can be reallocation of boundaries or remapping or redrawal of boundaries, but total seats will remain the same. Okay, so this was the freeze, and that continued. So actually in 1973 it was said that after the first census after 2001 we will again delimit. Okay, but again in 2001, 2002, when the again Delimitation Act was passed, here also the 71 data was used. So 2002, what did it say? It said that we will continue or we will extend the freeze till 2026. So this is the existing position. What is the existing position? Delimitation of all parliamentary and Lok Sabha and assembly seats will happen when? After the first census after 2026. So we are it is very unfortunate that we are yet to start the 2021 census. That is you can say it is not correct. We should have conducted the census. Census is an important fact base for policymakers. Yesterday I alluded to the fact how evidence-based policy making is the key to tackle challenges. So here we do not have the mega database that we have every 10 years. So 2021 is not happening. So ideally it should have been after 2031 census. What is supposedly possible after 2026? 2026, the later census will be 2031. So it should have been like this. After 2031 census, we will delimit. But again, we don't know if this census only comes after 2026, and maybe at 2026 we can delimit. So that policy or that way how politics unfold, we are not sure, but we should know the facts in the ground. The facts is that the first census after 2026 is the census on the basis of which we will delimit the constituencies again, where we will look into even possibly increasing the seats. Okay, so this is the background of the things, and why the freeze is there. Then okay, now the concerns. What are the concerns raised with respect to delimitation in Assam? The first concern is that the action has been done by Election Commission of India without constituting the Delimitation Commission. So again, here we have a precedence. I referred to the first delimitation exercise that was conducted without the Delimitation Act. So yeah, it's not an anomaly, but again, Supreme Court is looking into this matter, that is it legitimate or is it legal for Election Commission to conduct the delimitation exercise without the help of Delimitation Commission. So here, this is the first issue. ACI without constitution of Delimitation Commission has done the exercise. This is the first concern. Second concern is the use of 2001 data instead of 2011 data which is there. Now, what is the argument? Here we know the counter argument, that there has been precedent where delimitation has been done without constituting Delimitation Commission. What is the counter argument here? It is that because now what we are doing, the delimitation that we are doing now is actually something which we should have done on 2008 itself. So this was the last delimitation that happened for entire country based on the 2002 Act. But 2008 delimitation excluded certain areas like Assam, Jammu and Kashmir and others like in the northeast. So because of security reasons, because of certain political factors also. So now, since this is not a delimitation after 2011, and here it is like, you can say, it is the finishing of the incomplete act. So that's why we are taking the 2001 census data. So be very clear with this argument or with this fact, because that's how you will justify, or that's how you will say, yeah, this is the reason why we have taken 2001 data and not 2011 data. What is it? I will repeat. Because it is a continuation of the process that started in 2008. So 2008 happened based on 2001 census. So we are doing it on 2001 census. Third aspect is that, as I referred to a few moments back, the next delimitation for the entire country will happen in 2020, like post 2026. So why so hurry? What is the urgency? We have waited for so long. Since 1973, we have had a delimitation. So in Assam, we have waited more than 50 years. So we could have waited for another 5 years. So what is the hurry? So that is a legitimate question that is raised, because all India we will have a post 2026. So we could have waited. That is another argument that is forwarded by certain people. Okay, and the Chief Minister of Assam projecting it as a question of protecting indigenous identity. He gives the slogan of Jati, Mati, Veti. So in a way, it is the projection of government is that it is something. It is a method to protect the assault on the demography, indigenous demography of Assam. So that is what the government position is. You should be aware of that also. Next, there is another argument. I will add it here itself. It says that without implementing the Assam Accord, without correcting, there are people who believe that the NRC that was conducted had many errors. So they claim that without correcting NRC, this exercise is futile. So they say that we need to first correct the NRC. We need to first implement Assam Accord. What is Assam Accord? It is an agreement between Government of Assam, Government of India and ASU at that time in 85, which said that certain special interest or the legitimate indigenous interest will be protected, so that the indigenous people do not feel insecure. Because Assam movement, the basic idea or basic genesis was the insecurity that the indigenous people felt from the so-called outsiders. So, to protect the interest of the indigenous people, certain political, economic, social protection or social security measures were supposed to be taken, but those are yet to be implemented. There is a committee report recommendation which is yet to be properly put in board. So all these things are happening. We will deal it separately, Assam Accord topic. But here, this is a critics point that. Without implementing Assam Accord properly, without correcting the NRC, the exercise of delimitation is futile. So, these are certain concerns that has been raised with respect to the implementation of delimitation award. Then, what is the way forward? What is the way forward? Actually, in this I will refer to a research paper. There was a 2019 research paper. The title of the research paper was India's Emerging Crisis of Representation. Crisis of Representation. The authors were Milan Vaishnav. When crime pays, he is of that fame. Milan Vaishnav and Jamie Hinston. Jamie Hinston. According to it, if the strength of Lok Sabha is increased after 2031 census, then UP, it says UP is now 80, it will be raised to 143. And whereas Kerala, state like Kerala, which is having 20, will stay at 20. So this is a major concern. We have to take care of it. But still, the possible suggestion or possible way forward is that we cannot put this thing under the carpet. We cannot delay the problem. We have to face it head on. So your suggestion should be, number one, don't delay the exercise. After 2026. That means after 2026, when you have to do, you have to do. Okay, so it is already overdue. There are a long time has passed. So if you have to increase the seats, but increase it proportionately and increase it at all, like where all areas are covered, so that people like you don't lose seats. Okay, you don't create animosity within the country. There can be civil strife if such things happen, because many political careers will be at stake. So you have to be very sensitive about this issue. But in spite of that, you have to face the challenge head on, because today it will increase because of increased population. But tomorrow when population comes in, then you can even actually decrease the seats. So it's not like you are giving power to the politicians. Actually, you are giving power to the people. So you have to accept that fact. Then another reform or another way forward you should suggest is that there has been a amendment to representation in Rajya Sabha, where it has been made that the person contesting Rajya Sabha seat need not be a person of that state. He can be an outsider and he can come and fight election from a state. We have many examples. The previous Prime Minister Manmohan Singh was a prime example. So that needs to be corrected according to many experts, because Rajya Sabha representation is also a representation. So when you are like making it an adjustment representation, so that way you, the person is actually not representing the people or the constituency it is representing. Because Rajya Sabha representation is what? It is a composite representation. The whole state is one constituency and you have 7 representatives. Now, if you have a person from another state, then what legitimate concerns will he have with respect to that? He may have at personal level, but it doesn't show that way. So you need to do such reforms also to create actually the idea of true representation. True representation with respect to Rajya Sabha. Okay. So there are also suggestions that to encourage uniform population growth throughout the country. Actually, that was the idea. It was presumed that by 2026 there will be a uniform population growth across the country. So more or less, all like these like grievances of South will disappear. But those are still lingering. So such things are still there. But you need to tackle it head on. You have to catch the bull by its horn. And another important suggestion, that is with regard to the Finance Commission award or Finance Commission under 280. Under 280, Finance Commission allocates the horizontal and vertical distribution of taxes. So in that, population is a criteria. So there is a suggestion that you should reduce the criteria of population. In fact, there has been a change in allocation or in the criteria of population. Earlier it used to be 71 census, now it has been brought to 2011 census. But again, there is a adjustment for demographic demographic change. There has been an adjustment to accommodate the interest of South India. But you can give a suggestion that population criteria as a criteria for resource allocation can be reduced, so that again it serves the purpose. So that is what we can say can be certain way forward. So that's how you can tackle the problem of delimitation, or like obviously you can handle it at the interview level with all aspects covered. And shortly we'll come up with topics or analysis on NLC, corrected NLC or the issues with NLC and Assam Accord. Thank you.